Coaches, are you ready to take your athletes to the next level? Today, we are going to be discussing a very powerful tool that you as coaches can use with any of your athletes to improve their skills and the mental components of their sport. Today, we will be discussing the use of imagery in sports performance. We will dive into learning about what imagery is, the benefits and importance, and also strategies to incorporate this into your practices. As I walk you through this insightful guide, I certainly invite you to keep an open mind, especially if imagery is a new topic for you. Athletes of all ages and all abilities can use imagery, and your athletes can too, as the tool has been reportedly shown in research to unlock new heights for athletic success. Imagery, as many of you may know, is a mental rehearsal technique that engages all senses to create an experience that either prepares athletes for the future or allows them to revisit past events. There are many benefits, including heightened concentration, increased confidence, reduced anxiety, and more positive thoughts and images. Incorporating imagery into your coaching approach can lead to significant improvements in your team's performance. You may be wondering, why does imagery work? Well, let's discuss some of the neuroscience behind this. When someone engages in imagery, the motor cortex of the brain, the area responsible for controlling movement, becomes activated. Essentially, as someone imagines themselves performing, their brain is firing in the same way that it would during a physical movement. This enhances the effectiveness of athletic movements since the brain is practicing sending signals as it would during an actual movement. Some may say it's all in their head, which may be true, but luckily the brain is a very powerful tool that athletes can use. Now, let's talk about how you as coaches can implement imagery techniques into your practice sessions. While teaching athletes how to use this technique, they must first understand that there are two primary types of imagery: internal imagery and external imagery. Internal imagery involves mentally rehearsing a skill from an athlete's own perspective, while external imagery involves viewing an athlete's performance from an outsider's perspective, such as watching a video. Regardless of the type of imagery that an athlete chooses to use, it's important to create an experience that uses all five senses. For example, if you coach swimming, you may want your athletes to imagine seeing the black line at the bottom of the pool as they are swimming, hearing the water rushing by their ears while tucked into their swim cap, smelling and maybe even tasting the chlorine a little bit, feeling the water and the downward pull of each stroke. There's a lot of sensory information to be taken in during a sporting event or practice. Imagining all aspects of it during an imagery session is going to allow the athletes to be more prepared when they implement their imagery experience in real life. To facilitate this process, consider conducting guided imagery sessions during your practices. Allocate dedicated time for athletes to engage in deep breathing exercises in order to calm their minds before transitioning into imagery before or after practice. If you are ready to implement mental training into your practice, then we are going to discuss ways that you can conduct imagery in a practice. It will look a little different for each sport, so feel free to manipulate the information to fit into your sport. You may verbally walk your athletes through how to do a guided imagery session and also give them time to create their own imagery experience independently. Regardless of your imagery experience, encourage your athletes to find a comfortable seated or lying position and allow them to shut their eyes if they prefer that. First, have them complete a series of deep breathing exercises. You may guide them through this. Then guide them through an imagery session of themselves in a calming environment. They may choose to imagine a serene beach scene. The first 10 minutes of imagery can be used to relax the body and prime the mind for the experience. As the coach is guiding them through this at this time, you may choose to set the scene and then allow athletes to lay quietly and focus for the remaining time. Once they are calm and centered, prompt them to transition into imagining their sport-specific scenarios. For example, tailoring examples to your sport, such as picturing the perfect putt for golfers, a powerful dive off the blocks for swimmers, or a flawless serve for a volleyball player. Encourage them to pay attention to every detail, from their stance to their movements, fostering vivid and immersive experiences. The key is repetition and specificity. Athletes should repeat these exercises often and incorporate it into their regular training. They can incorporate these different aspects into their sport, whether it's a specific skill or a game scenario or successful past performances. By consistently integrating imagery into their training routines, athletes can refine their skills, boost their confidence, and ultimately elevate their overall performance on the field, in the pool, or on the court. As coaches, it's essential to emphasize the importance of mental training alongside physical training. As athletes use their physical skills during practice, they must also develop their mental skills through imagery. By fostering a culture that values mental preparation as much as your physical conditioning, you can unlock your team's athletic full potential and achieve peak performance.